The beautiful Sydney Football Stadium, one of the great rugby league grounds of the world, and there'll be a few more thousand people here on Friday night when the Roosters take on the Broncos in round 5 of the NRL. And we bring you the Betfair report here from the SFS. I'm Mathew Thompson. Tim Gilbert's back with me this week, and we're both hoping to reverse some treacherous tipping from round 4. It was a nightmare, Timmy.
Yeah, I'm sure that we weren't Robinson Crusoe on that one. A lot of people around Australia in footy tipping comps would have gone 1, 2, 3, naught. I'm sure there were a few people who got none. So it doesn't get a lot easier this weekend, but slightly easier, I would suggest. All
right, well, let's see if we can find a couple of winners. We'll start with that game here at the SFS on Friday. It is the Roosters up against the Broncos, and with Betfair at the moment, the Roosters $2.52 outsiders against the $1.52 favourites, the Brisbane Broncos. The Broncos' unblemished record was blemished by the Dragons last week at Suncorp Stadium. The Roosters with an excellent win in their game, so interesting to see how this game might pan out.
Yeah, hard to find a winner in it, but I think the Broncos, they had some excuses last week. They'd played the Warriors the week before, so coming back to Australia, it was a pretty brutal game over there, in saying that they won the match, but the Warriors came back and hit hard. The Dragons were very good. I think that the Broncos might just get the Roosters here, who are up and down, aren't they? They're playing some wonderful football, which they did in defence last week, but then they turn in some disgraceful performances as well. I think the Broncos just to get them.
Well, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go the Roosters here. I'm just going to bank on them maybe putting together a couple of good performances back-to-back. I think the inclusion of Miles and Mason after a week playing for Newtown in some obscure suburban ground somewhere last week.
Morrie Breen Oval on the Central Coast it was.
One of the great grounds. So I just think the Roosters with a bit of muscle in the pack might be able to upset Brisbane along the same lines as the Dragons did last week. They were physically too much for the Broncos, I think, and that's where the game was decided there at Suncorp Stadium. So I'm going to tip the upset. I'm going to go with the Roosters, but we'll wait and see.
Okay.
Now, the other Friday game, Parramatta versus the Dragons here, and there's all kinds of drama in the Parramatta camp. We read about Brett Finch looking for a release, and if everything goes to how we've been reading in the last couple of days, Finch won't be there on Friday night.
Yeah, almost certain. And the Dragons, I think, unless they completely do something against the form that they've shown in the first few weeks, they deserve to start favourites and they should win this game. Parramatta, well, they've mixed their form a little bit, but even their wins haven't been compelling. I think the Dragons should win.
Yes, $1.59 favourites, $2.50 for outsiders Parramatta, and the money for mine will go the way of the Dragons. Nice way to start your punting weekend, I reckon. The $1.59 with the Dragons looks pretty nice. We'll skim through these Saturday games. The Sharks up against the Raiders. The Sharks have been really ordinary. The Raiders, their first win of the week on Monday night too.
A lot of young players in there. Young Dugan at fullback was outstanding. Croker, very, very good. Carney, good. Herbert, probably the best game I've seen from him. Whether or not it'll be good enough to beat the Sharks at home, and Ricky Stewart being one of the better coaches in the game, I just think he'll have the Sharks up for it. With Trent Barrett coming back and him and Brett Seymour back at the halves, I think the Sharks will win. I'm
going the other way there as well. I'm going to tip the Raiders. I reckon if they can travel and take some form on the road, I think they'll have too many points for the Sharkies, who are going to blood some debutants as well because of their horrendous injury toll and a couple of suspensions. Now, the Battle of Queensland, here's the Cowboys and the Titans. The Cowboys pretty short at $1.61 at the moment. I think you'll get better than that as the game draws closer on Betfair. The Titans, $2.22. Now, Timmy last week said the Titans travel like prawns. They can't go out of the suburb without going off. What happened there?
Yeah, don't bring everything up from last week because not a lot of what I said was right. But in the past, the Gold Coast Titans have not travelled well at all. They've obviously had some freshly packed ice around those prawns, and they got down to Melbourne, and their defence was wonderful. They've got to travel again. They've got to travel right up there to Dairy Farmers Stadium where there'll be a packed crowd. And I don't think Jonathan Thurston, I mean, there's only so much we can go on reputation, but you wouldn't think Jonathan Thurston could put back-to-back performances like he did this week. This weekend. I just think North Queensland will get them.
Scott Prince comes back too for the Gold Coast Titans, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys here as well at Dairy Farmers Stadium. $1.61, $2.22 at the moment. I reckon those prices might change around. You get a bit of better price there for the Cowboys, who did get out in the market last week as well, so the Betfair punters got that one right. They thought the Raiders were a good chance at winning as the outsiders. Now, the Storm and the Panthers. The Storm $1.34. The Panthers outsiders at the moment at $3.35. You think the Storm would win, but a bit of confidence in that Penrith camp after a couple of unexpected good wins.
Yeah, there were a few coaches last week that closed the door and kept everyone else out apart from the players and copped a few serves. The Melbourne Storm were one of those. Craig Bellamy not happy at all.
And he can spray.
He can get aggressive sometimes. But he's also one of the great coaches, and I would think that they'd be working overtime this week not to do what they did last week, and they were poor last week against a good Gold Coast Titans side. Penrith's form, of course, they're coming in with a bit of confidence, but I don't think it'll be good enough to beat Melbourne at home.
Melbourne to win for me as well, but just have a look at the handicap betting there on Betfair, because I reckon if you can get around about 8.5, 10-point start for Penrith, I reckon that might be worth having a little bit of something on. Just check the market out there. A couple of cracking games on Sunday, and not much in either of them, I don't think. The Knights up against the Warriors first of all. Newcastle $1.74 on Betfair, $2.06 the Warriors, who make the trek over from Auckland, where their form on the road hasn't always been all that convincing. And Newcastle at home, well, they've turned that Energy Australia Stadium into a graveyard again. Yeah,
I have to go the Knights on their form from last week with Mullen and Gidley and some of the young guys. The back rowers performing brilliantly well. And Adam McDougall, Mad Dog, playing like he's 22 again. Yeah, Newcastle to beat the Warriors.
Yep, Newcastle for mine as well. The Warriors struggled last week. Brent Tate's not there, and Steve Price was out last week as well. I think they rely so much on those two guys. Now, the Seagulls and the Tigers. Manly against the Tigers, who of course are a partner of Betfair, corporate partner, the West Tigers. They can't be none from 5. Manly.
Well, they can, but whether or not they will, I think this will be a really tight game. I can't wait for the return of Brett Stewart to the Seagulls. It'll be packed at Brookvale Oval. And a Tigers team that will be hurting after a pretty humiliating loss to the Penrith Panthers last week. This will be tight. Can we say golden point?
Oh.
Can we say golden point again?
Well, you can.
And a possible field. Am I allowed not to pick?
Well, you can say whatever you like.
Okay. I'll just say it'll be equal after golden point. So this game will be one of the first draws we've seen in a long time.
Well, there you go. A draw in the the Manly Tigers game. What price that? I didn't even bring the draw prices with me. Maybe I should have. That'll be about $30. So there you go. A bit of value there from Timmy Gilbert. As much as I love the Tigers, I think the desperation for Manly might just get them home. But Timmy Sheens gave the boys a rev up last week, so we'll see if the Tigers can come out and keep foot with Manly at the moment. Now, Monday night, this might be one of the games of the round as well, as the sprinkler descends upon us here at the Sydney Football Stadium. Did you bring your umbrella?
No, I didn't.
Oh, good. $1.92, the Dogs, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. $1.89 favourites here.
I'll make this quick so we don't get wet. Souths for me, great form last week, great defence. Although the Dogs were good, I think Souths.
They're going good. The Bunnies, I think they'll win as well. All right, Betfair.com, the place to go for all the best NRL prices. We're about to get soaked, so we'll come back next week and we'll bring a poncho.
Enjoy your football and don't get wet.